Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
Also by BioWheels Fit Studio and Workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering you a full host of bike fitting services intended to provide the cycling enthusiast with the most efficient, comfortable, and sustainable bike fit they have ever had.
And by the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing small batch, handmade chamois cream, custom blended for your team or shop right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Contact us today to learn more.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello and welcome back once again to the Gravel Lot, the official podcast for all things cycling. I'm John, that's Doug. We are glad that you found us yet again for another week of TGL. Whether you are a new or an existing Pebble, welcome. I'm welcoming you. Doug is dancing.
I'm always
it's just another day here in my version of podcasting and his version of TikToking. So for those of you who are new, first off, we call you Pebbles. So everyone is a Pebble here in the Gravel Lot, and in kind of the bigger metaphorical Gravel Lot as well. But I think more importantly for TGL, we love storytelling. So we like to bring people that are in our kind of communal world of cycling, have them come on, talk about their stories, share their trials, their tribulations, their successes, their failures, all of those things. And in kind of an attempt to create more compassion, more empathy, and really more community around this thing that we all love of riding bikes. So if you guys like what you hear today, please be sure to do the things that the internet wants you to do to keep showing you the things that we want to keep making. Hit the like button, hit the notifications, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Doug wants to make a TikTok, so message Doug and tell him you want him to make a TikTok, because I'm sure he would be more than really happy to do it.
There's got this thing right now, these glitch dances, and I'm like, I can already pop and lock, so I'm ready. I'm like ready to.
You're ready for your breakout?
Yeah. Your
internet breakout. Okay, so if you want Doug to do that, leave your comments below. If you don't want him to do that, leave your comments below. And hit the link in our show notes to check out our website, our Etsy, all of our great partners that you just heard about, or go to support TGL on Patreon.
Yeah, if you would be so kind, that's our little corner of the internet, our website, Patreon, all the stuff, Bike Shop Show, Girls Moving Mountains, all our friends and partners and the people we love. Please go support them. That's exceptional. But also, you can find us on all the social platforms except TikTok yet, at the Gravel Lot. And you can also send us a voicemail, 513-400-5577. We love hearing from you in any manner. Please reach out to us. We love to do that. So instead of asking you, my friend John, about how your ride was this week, and I know your ride home to get here for this podcast was
let's for level setting for everybody out there. But right as we were running, or I was running the intro video, I essentially drank like half of this Bud Light Lime all in one sitting because my commute was just 55 minutes.
It's normally 25.
Yeah, normally 25, which, of course, I think that would be a Murphy's Law situation where the day that you need your commute to not be insane is the day that inevitably your commute is insane.
Of course.
Either way, it brings up a nice transition piece because Doug and I have been talking a lot about this. He's taking on more responsibilities at work. I'm taking on a brand new job that has its own management and responsibilities that are clearly infringing on
No. What
this
basically
time space.
it gives you less time to manage me. Let's be very clear. Much of your day normally is spent managing me and my neuroses.
Yeah, you have been
less time to manage me.
You have been on your own the past 7 days, 7 business days.
I'm on a canoe.
You're still here. But either way, it's spawned some really difficult conversations with Doug and I. And I think it's from day one, we've promised you guys we're going to keep making this show, and that's not changing. We're going to keep making the show. We're going to keep trying to bring these stories to you and carve out time where needed. But our lives right now are making this not tenable to do every week. So even though the verbiage is confusing, we're going to be moving to bi-weekly, just like the Bike Shop Show and Girls Moving Mountains.
It's on brand for me.
Yes, and not the 2 times a week bi-weekly. It is going to be every other week. So we're still working through, whether it's we still record on Tuesdays and then the show comes out on Thursdays, or maybe we move the live stream to Thursdays and the show just comes out the next Thursday. I don't know. Those are the things right now that we're talking through, so you guys have kind of full transparency on it. But we love every one of you, all of your messages, all of those things have buoyed us for 3.5 years of doing this, and you guys know that making anything is a production. It's a labor of love. It's expensive, and this is just getting to a point where we're not being able to, I literally sat down 15 seconds before trying to turn the live stream on. So it's getting to a point where it's starting to hurt this product. And I don't personally want to keep doing that. So I want to start to carve out time to continue to give this the justice that it deserves, that you guys kind of expect from us, and leave the door open to, I don't know, maybe when we get back to fall or in the winter, we'll go back to weekly. I don't know what that looks like, but a lot of things are wild and a lot of things are very, very busy right now for me, for specifically, and Doug as well, with, him getting married and starting a new life. But there's just
new life that I already currently live.
Yeah, the new life that's exactly the same as the previous life, but It feels new, whatever.
But I think what you're saying, John, is important, and I don't want to belabor it any further, except to say that we are, as John said at the head of this, we're committed to continue to bring this content. And what we don't want to see is the ability for us to bring you the quality of content that we have been bringing you fall off. So we need to turn the wick down a little bit. We need to back off a little bit and just maybe take a few laps around the course, not at full steam, so that we're able to make sure that every lap we're nailing every corner.
Yep.
Sometimes slow is fast because slow is smooth, right? And smooth is fast, right? So you have to have the right mentality as you roll through this stuff. And thanks to all of you, we are going to be able to make this happen. We will be here. We're not going anywhere. We're just going to back the pace down a little bit so that we make sure that we still hit our marks and that we are clean through the corners. We don't wipe out trying to do some stupid stuff. Yeah. But in tandem with that, we have a ton of awesome stuff, backroom conversations going on for next year. Crazy, really awesome things that we are working on with partners and friends and people. Y'all, we're going to get to spend so much time in 2022 together
in person,
as long as
people.
All of y'all go get vaccinated. So go get vaccinated. And if you aren't, tell all your friends. And if you are vaccinated, tell all your friends to get vaccinated. Please. It's very important. We all want to live. I don't want to get COVID at all, much less just because I'm vaccinated. No, I avoid it. Let's avoid this thing. It is actually the plague. Let's avoid it like it is a plague.
Right.
Let's all get vaccinated. So enough of my soapbox. That's what's up with us. Let's talk to our friend. I think this is about the time of the show that this happens.
Sure, like perfect. No clutch, just shift gears. Let's do this.
Smash it into fourth, right? Because you're just like, just grab it. You're good. Don't even need to rev match. Just bang the gearbox. It's fine. So today we are lucky enough to be joined and by a returning guest. And we are very excited to have them back. Hopefully his video shows up here momentarily. But we're very excited to have our returning guest back. If you want to listen back to his backstory, you need to go no further back than season 3, episode 20, where we had our friend Mehdi on. Mehdi, are you there? Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Uh-oh.
I am not seeing anything.
You know what's good is all of this can come out in post when I'm doing this. So, Mehdi, hello. Let me see.
It's good for the live stream, though.
No, it's fun. This is fun. Let's see.
Me like
but this is, you know what's interesting? As many times as I have watched live. Oh, Mehdi is gone. Let's see if he comes back. As many times as I have watched live streams, nothing ever goes right on them. Like,
that is true, and that's something that after we had like 5 in a row that went perfect.
Yep.
And then during the 6th one, we had like audio issues, like video transition issues, just all kinds of stuff. Streamlabs basically got rid of all of our content. And then I started going back and watching some of the channels that I follow on YouTube and watch some of their live streams, and it made me feel a lot better. I was like, oh, nobody knows how to do this. It's okay.
Go on Twitch at any given time, right? Like, go on Twitch and they're doing it's a live stream of a game. John, keep an eye on the email, will you?
Yep.
If something comes through. Live stream of like a game, and it's sponsored by Twitch, and it is like 7 people, and they're all doing a live like D&D game, and nothing works. And guarantee like every time there's like a you're muted, right moment.
Yeah.
Constantly. And I think it's funny because we, as people who create content, put ourselves in a space where we're like, especially John and I, because the way we operate is like everything's got to be perfect, or if we're not hitting our marks, we're in trouble. But that's not the way the world works. And so if you just embrace the fact that is not how technology happens, then you're good. I think we've got Mehdi rejoining us here. We'll see if he's able to roll back in.
Looks like
it's a wild space to be in, because you think, oh, everything's going to go smoothly, and then it doesn't. And you just got to remember, it's the internet.
Everything's fine. This is fine. This is fine. Everything's fine.
You remember trying to get on like dial-up and like get to your AOL chat room to chat with that girl that you'd met? Like, you were like, no, I gotta like get on there quick.
Hey, the internet is interneting again. All
right, Mehdi, you're there.
Hello. Yes.
Good. You're back.
I think when you let me in, it crashed my Zoom. I don't know.
Well, welcome to technology.
That's all right. We created some amazing filler content there
that I get to just edit out of the podcast, but all of our live stream viewers got to have. So that's good. So with that, I'm going to reintroduce you since you are back in the spot. So today we are joined by a returning guest. If you want to listen to his backstory, like I said, go back to season 3, episode 20. We talked all about how his company that he's built with his brother, were gearing up for the lack of production during COVID shutdowns. And so now we get to talk to him like on the backside of that chaos, and kind of a different chaos that we're all in right now, and hear how it went, how it's going, and more importantly, what we're all looking forward to. So welcome our friend Mehdi Farsi, co-founder of State Bicycle Company, back to the gravel lot.
Thanks for having me, fellas. It's good to chat. Season 3, episode 20. What was the date on that? I'm just trying to figure out.
It was like, I want to say it was the second week of April last year.
Okay.
So it was, I feel like when we were all hopeful, like, oh, this is just going to be a short upheaval, and then we're all going to, it's all going to be normal. And now I feel like we're talking about this like we're at halftime in some like weird like Hunger Games style situation.
Sure.
John, are you the archer? Because I am definitely not the archer. Like,
I
what's
don't
your
know.
skill
I
in
am
Hunger Games?
that like that's all I can do with that reference. I got no more relevance. I've never seen any of those, but it felt like the right way to reference.
Mine is talking my way out of things. That's my Hunger Games skill, Mehdi. So we walked into this odd space kind of together, and we learned a lot about your story and how State started happening, and kind of folks who don't know State, if you do know State, why don't Mehdi, you just describe it for folks in a nutshell? What's your elevator pitch about what State does, just for people that may not be familiar with your brand?
Yeah, so we're based in Phoenix, Arizona, relatively young company, although we have been around for a little while now. Started in 2009 here. Traditionally, and at that time, we were really focused on kind of urban cycling, specifically fixed gear and single speed bikes, and did that for a while. And as the company kind of grew and matured, and we grew and got into some different realms as riders ourselves, we've evolved. And I think now our catalog really is pretty vast. We have bikes from city bikes to fixed gear bikes to bikes you would ride on the track, and now more and more we're putting riders into dirt and gravel, which was the last time we talked. I think all of that was just about to happen and was coming up, so we hadn't even really seen how that would go. So that's what we do. We're really well known for kind of having one foot into the cycling world and being in the thick of things that are current, relevant, happening in the world of cycling, but also having a foot kind of just in the mainstream culture and youth culture in particular. Most of our customers tend to be a little bit younger than kind of what you would typically see the cycling industry trying to attract. So folks kind of in their early 20s all the way to like their mid 30s are kind of our prime demographic. And we try to be really right in that sweet spot if you're looking at like a Venn diagram of attractiveness in terms of our product offering, but also accessibility. So I don't say affordable necessarily, because accessible could be a variety of things. So financially accessible, I think we have a lot of bikes that are at really accessible price points, but also the way we primarily sell. We don't take just one model or another. So, we're not direct to consumer only. We're not only working with select dealers. So we have kind of a hybrid model. So that means, if there isn't a great bike shop in your area, you can still get our bikes shipped to your house by shopping online. So that's where we like to live and play. And I think that probably gives you a pretty decent overview about what we do here at State Bicycle Company.
Yeah, and I think if you guys go to the website and look around at the shop and look around at kind of the story, you'll see some great collaborations from a merchandising perspective with brands that you guys have worked with, but also you're working with one of our family members as well, doing some collabs with Hand Up. But I think the one thing that I want to underscore before we kind of jump into the conversation about kind of I don't want to keep saying it's like halftime during the pandemic, but it really feels like that.
Let's hope it's halftime, because everyone's been saying it's been halftime for half a year, and it certainly hasn't felt like it.
Right. But I think the one thing that you're kind of underselling is that accessibility piece, because so many times we cite once we found the Velo News like user demographic survey, results. We've cited it, or at least I've cited it so many times on this show, but like you guys are your most expensive bike is like 1/3 of what they call an entry level road bike. So in terms of like the bike industry being accessible, you guys are really stretching what is the previously existing bounds in terms of giving something affordable to people that is quality products. So I think that's the piece that I just keep coming back to, that it's something that's making bikes look cool, working with brands that are relevant to the age demographic, but also putting it at a price point that you don't need a 6-figure job to afford.
Right. Yeah. No, I appreciate you kind of highlighting that. I mean, that's, I don't know that that was necessarily like our mission, so to speak, but we kind of like fell into that because, you know, our mission really was to make bikes that appealed to kind of our age group and our friends, since there weren't really a lot of companies that were focused on that. And this is, you know, fresh out of college, you know, in my mid early 20s. And so, you know, getting there, you do have to make it affordable because, you know, most folks at that age don't necessarily have that 6-figure income job like you said, especially at that age. So,
yeah.
You know, it might not have necessarily been like completely like our number one goal, but definitely like we've kind of gotten into that lane and been able through really a variety of ways been able to keep our costs affordable to the end user and get as many people on bikes as possible. But I think the intersection between attractiveness is really and affordability is really where we want to be, because I mean, unit by unit, there are plenty of bikes that are sold in big box and Amazon and your Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, and most of those, you know, tend to be pretty accessible in terms of a price point, but they're not attractive. Unfortunately, a lot of those companies cut corners on a number of levels, and you know, what ends up happening to those bikes is they get purchased. They don't necessarily speak to the rider or the end user on like kind of a emotional level. And so the bike ends up sitting in a garage, gets flat tires, gets cobwebs, and then it's thrown out or donated maybe when the person moves apartments or houses. So, yeah. You know, it's about making accessible bikes, but also bikes that kind of move people and inspire people to be active, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want more people using the roads, using the trails. So cities and you know, states and governments invest more, and we just build it up more and more and more.
I think that idea is an interesting way to approach things as a manufacturer that you've leaned into. And I think it's cool to see that. Now, all the bikes in my garage do get cobwebs, but that's only because we got 9,000 spiders that live in my garage. And there's a lot of bikes, you cannot ride all of them every single day. I mean, I guess you could, but it's a thing. But, you know, when you look at collaborations, there's one that I want to call out and give you my condolences for on air, which is the collaboration, the beautiful Phoenix Suns bike that y'all released. Gorgeous. But as a Midwesterner, I apologize for Milwaukee getting its first shot since the 40s or whatever.
Sure.
Doing something. But that bike, beautiful, like very pretty. So kudos to you on that. It looks awesome. I love that thing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm wearing kind of my Arizona colors, and these are actually Suns colors, and this shirt was inspired by Arizona lottery commercial that they used to run during the 90s on the local Fox Sports or whatever the affiliate was back then. They used to run, like, coming back from commercial break, these Arizona lottery, and the logo looks very similar to this, so this is a little bit of a throwback. I gotta say, you know, we were at a number of the games. It was a good run. I think the team like really probably overachieved this year, and Milwaukee has been knocking on the door for a few years. So, you know, if we weren't going to win it, then we're fine with the Bucks taking it, at least this time. But It was really cool to just see kind of the city, and like the city had like a lot of pride and a lot of energy that I hadn't sensed in quite some time. So that was like probably like the coolest part about it. Like people were getting together, especially like coming like somewhat out of like the pandemic, you know, people were getting together with friends that they hadn't seen for a while, or family members, and doing all that stuff. And I think that's like probably like the best part about sports. I mean, you're seeing it a little bit with the Olympics too, like just kind of like collective excitement around the city.
Well, if nothing else, as two residents of a city that is perpetually heartbroken in pretty much every professional sports realm possible, there's always next year.
Sure.
We're real good at saying that. Normally it's like halfway through the season, not that late into the season. In actually the playoffs, we don't really know I forget the Colts coach. Playoffs.
Yeah.
We don't understand what playoffs are here in Cincinnati, but it's cool that you guys made them. But yeah, we could coach you on the "there's always next year" mantra. We're good at that.
Sure.
So you mentioned in there, like, it was good seeing everybody coming out of the pandemic, right, and having a chance. And folks, as I said in the intro, we're not through this. Protect yourself, get vaccinated, wear a mask if you're in public and you have unvaccinated people in your home. Like, take care of yourself, get this done. This is important. This is how we get past all of this. But we talked to you when things, as John said, looked like it was going to be like, okay, well, we just got to get through the summer. If we can get to the winter, we'll have vaccines, everything will be good. But lots of stuff changed from a business perspective. So what was that period of time in late spring through the summer? And like, what has the trajectory been for the business as far as making shifts, making moves, and trying to balance how you continue to be someone who provides products to people and deliver them through this time? Give us a little bit of an overview of what that process has been.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, going back to, April 20 last year, we were starting to see kind of some increased demand. But I don't know that we kind of knew the entire scope or what it would be like. Simultaneously, we had a number of big product releases and actually like pretty like fundamentally like company altering like projects that we were planning on launching throughout the year anyway. So, that combined with the pandemic, meant for just a lot of attention to the brand, to state. And, we drew a lot of attention, and the company's been performing very well, compared to previous years. As we kind of progressed through the pandemic, obviously we kind of hit some speed bumps along the way, because I don't think anyone in the industry necessarily like was equipped to deal with kind of some of the accelerated demand paired with the production delays. Like initially we were like, okay, there's going to be some delays. I mean, that's where we first started seeing the pandemic kind of manifest itself, because obviously it was more severe in Asia first. That's where the majority of the bike industry is kind of centered and doing their production. So we're like, okay, we're going to see some hiccups in production. Things got better there. The production started getting a little bit better, but what we saw was, huge increased demand here in the States. And really globally for bikes, just for, a number of reasons that I'm sure the audience all kind of can figure out, gyms being closed, people wanting to commute safely and avoid public transport. Just, it's one of the few activities that you really didn't need to do very differently than in pre-pandemic times. So for all those reasons.
Interesting way to put it. That's an interesting way to put it. And I hadn't thought about phrasing that way. It's something that you didn't really have to do differently. Maybe you didn't go on group rides, but you really didn't do anything else differently.
Yeah, and I like riding by myself. So I mean, it was like no different. Like get out of my house, like put a some AirPods in and ride a little bit. Like early on, like if I was like passing someone, maybe I would go like all the way to like the yellow line or something, like and like making sure I wasn't necessarily like drafting anyone or things like that. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really change cycling all that much for me, at least, being in Arizona and just the way the local activities were here. So um, yeah, but increased demand, and then in particular, a lot of interest in some of the new products that we released with the various all road bikes. We had clunkers came out last year, which were a really fun bike, and people loved those. And we had some really cool collaborations between April of last year and now. So it's been good, and we've increased our ordering, we've increased production, and inevitably we're still seeing a lot of these delays, and inventory shortages for quite a variety of reasons. Shipping industry is a little bit challenging to navigate right now, and yeah, it's a little bit of a game of whack-a-mole. Like we'll solve one problem and then we'll have another problem coming up. But by and large, we've tried to be really transparent with our customers, so they know what's going on. In a perfect world, we would have kind of just a tree that grew bikes like in our parking lot, and we could pick them off, but it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't
something
work
gets
that well.
dented, just
Yeah,
fix.
that's a different that's boo bicycles. That's a whole different world of bikes.
Sure.
But so okay, so I'm thinking back to, and it's funny to go back and talk about this stuff of, like you're saying, like early on in the pandemic, I would have given somebody the whole lane to try and pass them, and just it made me start to think back to how differently we handled things in March versus April versus May, as as things started to trickle in, and as research started to kind of come back on all of this stuff. But I think more personally for you, as a leader of the company, early in my career, I had a manager that gave me the metaphor of a duck above water, where people tend to gravitate towards the people that under stressful situations are totally placid above the water, like a duck. You see like duck just floating across the water, but then underneath that water, those legs are just flying along and flittering away, making sure that duck can continue to move across the water. So I think, like, with that mindset in place, every business owner, every one of my friends that is in like leadership positions, I've kind of asked them the same question: is how did you go about navigating not necessarily the business decisions during this time, but managing your own kind of, whether you want to call it your poker face or your outside projections to your team, in terms of trying to make them feel okay, trying to make them feel safe, trying to make it seem like we were still going to be open tomorrow, because I know a lot of companies came like right to the edge of oblivion in during all of this. So like, how did you kind of like walk us through your process of as you start to see what's happening and realize the gravity of the situation? How did you kind of talk yourself through how you were going to outwardly project to the rest of the team?
Yeah, so I mean, like I think I probably went through various phases
Stages of
throughout. I
grief.
mean, this has been going on. Yeah, this has been going on for a while. I mean, I think when early on in March and April, when like the stock market was tanking and they were talking about shutdowns and everything. Yeah, it was like definitely worried about the viability of the company, and if we would have to lay people off, that sort of thing. That was at like in retrospect pretty short-lived of a feeling. we just kind of took it day by day and were able to adapt. And then, as things proceeded, we started, selling out bikes, type of thing. And again, that brought on like some more stress, but ultimately we knew like if demand was there, we were going to kind of figure out the best way to proceed. And we're a relatively small organization. I know, like, probably a lot of folks, when I talk to them, they think we're like much bigger than we are. Like, I interact with everyone here on a daily basis, so I get a pretty good idea of like kind of how everyone's feeling. And the team was energetic. They were like very happy that we were busy. They were engaged. I think everyone was engaged. Everyone knew that they might have to like chip in a little bit more and work a little bit more, but they would kind of be taken care of, correspondingly, as a result. That was like probably one of the challenges with hiring, especially kind of like, summer of last year, when you're reluctant, no one's vaccinated, you're reluctant to bring people in from the outside. We kind of all had a little bit of like, we were essential, so we didn't necessarily have to shut down our headquarters. We shut down our retail store. And again, that was something we kind of turned over to the employees that work there. Like, do you feel comfortable with like strangers walking in to get their bikes fixed? No. Okay, well, yeah, I don't blame you. Let's shut down for a little bit and like figure out when we all feel comfortable and we have more information, we can resume. But at headquarters, we kind of all had an understanding of, let's all do what we can to stay safe. Let's not do anything foolish. Let's take the proper precautions here. Let's be transparent. Like, if someone, that got sick or whatever, like, let everyone know so we can all be aware. And we were able to navigate it really, really successfully that way. And that's kind of how we got through, just kind of like the personnel and that sort of thing. We're just a pretty tight knit group here. And I think that's probably a byproduct of just being a pretty small team. And also, we have folks that have worked with us for a number of years. So once people are here at state, we like to kind of keep them around.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting piece of it. When you build a culture where everyone's willing to communicate with each other and work with each other, you start to create that trust level that allows it to actually manifest when you have to manage these weird sort of situations that are outside of your control. Uh-oh, Mehdi's internet appears to have frozen. Mehdi, can you hear us? We could be bordering on our second boot of Mehdi. Who knows?
Yeah.
It happens to the best of us. He's in his new office though, so that's there he is. He's back.
Oh, video came back.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
We can hear you now, so that's good.
All right. Yeah, I think we had some lag there.
Yep. But
okay, great.
As I was saying, it's great that when you have an organization that is small like that, and that where everybody communicates well, you start to create a culture of communication, and it makes approaching problems like this a little bit more not easy, but more fluid. You're able to like navigate this in a way that I think a lot of other people necessarily aren't. So I want to talk a little bit about where we're at now, and how things are set up. And I want to kind of like open the hood and look underneath this and kind of think about where we are, because there's a lot of people out there, right? Like, who are trying to get a bike, or trying to like buy a chain ring, or trying to get new brake pads or tires for cyclocross season.
You're just listing things you want.
No,
That's all you just did.
No, full disclosure, I'm waiting on a bike. I Mehdi, don't give me an update. I don't need a shipping update. But but right, like there are people trying to purchase things and do things right in this strangely supply side economy drought from the bike side, right? Like it is hard to get anything from a supplier, but you're kind of in this space, right? You are manufacturing and supplying to people. And I like quite literally today, before we got on, I came home, I was let the dogs outside and I'm scrolling through Instagram. There's a post by state and I was like, yeah, check it out. Oh, sweet. Awesome. I love that new colorway. And I like the post. And then I was like, oh, here are the comments. And it was someone being like, hey dog, where's my bike I ordered in July? And it's like, or whenever for a July ship date. Every time someone's on the internet, they're getting in the comments, they're asking these questions, right? This constant pressure as someone who is a supplier and a brand and a manufacturer, people are pushing because they want their thing that they desperately want. I think we have to peel back what's actually going on so people understand what this process looks like. If I go to State Bicycles and you say that this bicycle is available for September or October shipment and I pay you money, what happens? Peel it back for me so I understand.
Yeah, totally. So addressing that one comment, it's only July 27th. So we're still on time.
That's such a one. It's like the business owner response, but that like you can run for office one day with mindsets like that. That is nice.
Sure.
Farsi for governor.
Yeah.
Weren't you?
No, I mean, so we're very transparent in the sense that, you know, if we're putting something on sale for, like you said, I mean, I think you said the early September was the new batch of the 4130 colorways that were just released, and they sold out the first batch last week. We opened up a new batch, and those are for early September pre-order. So this, you know, I don't want there to be any like misconception. Like, bikes take a lot longer than, you know, a month and a couple of weeks to produce. They take anywhere from 8 to 12 months right now. And that's kind of if everything goes smoothly. So essentially that inventory that we're selling for September was probably ordered, if I had to guess, in October or November of last year.
Basically pre-pandemic.
No, 2020. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I lost a year. That's
exactly.
What happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does happen. So we have not, as of today, we have not received all of the purchase orders that we made in 2020. So there's still 2020 purchase orders outstanding. And yeah, which is, I mean, towards the end of last year, I mean, we kind of knew what the times would be, at least roughly we knew what the times would be. So when something does go on pre-sale, at least, and I'm sure every company is different. Every company, it probably handles this differently. But for us, that means that the bikes are either fully done with production or they're, you know, 95% done with production. And we've basically booked a vessel to transport the bikes from our manufacturer in Asia to the port of Long Beach. So that means they're booked. We know, you know, those ships have, you know, dates that they pick up and they drop off. It's like booking a plane ticket, to use an analogy. So we know that the bike is going to arrive, let's say, to the port in August 28th or August 30th. And then we factor in, you know, a couple of days or a week or so of transit time from the port to us. And then literally the day we receive the inventory, if it's sold, it ships out, which at this point, you know, 80% of our inventory, if not more, is pre-sold. So it doesn't even hit our shelves. That's why, like when people say, like, when are these bikes going to be back in stock? I can never really like give an answer. Like, they're not going to be in stock.
Never,
Well, not for the foreseeable. I mean, like at this point, we can sell them faster than we can make them. So
Yeah.
like especially with this, so like those bikes sold out last week, and so we've been building up demand for it, and then the next batch is September. There's only so many bikes that we can fit on a container. Like the
Right.
vast majority pre-sells and it gets reserved. So that's kind of how we approach pre-orders. I'm sure some people do pre-orders for bikes that have not yet been produced, and or maybe not bikes, but smaller components that maybe have a shorter lead time, and that way they're taking the pre-orders and then producing exactly the right quantity. And then some companies maybe just do sales once they have the physical product. So, but in that case, you might check their website, and unless you're like lucky and you're on the website like the day they have the product, you're probably just seeing like an out of stock message. So for us, I think we try to basically have this like revolving like pre-orders. We want to be able to like let people reserve as quickly as possible while the demand is high, because we want to obviously capture that. We also just don't want people to think like we're indefinitely not getting products. So it's nice to have these pre-orders revolving, but at the same time, if there is like a strike at the port or a COVID outbreak at the port, or we just simply can't find like ground transportation to pick up from the port and deliver to us, that's where we're going to have, some issues. And, I think by and large, we communicate that with people who are waiting with like every batch. We know exactly who is waiting, and we communicate that if we think that, if the delay is like a day or two, no, we're probably not going to send you an email, but if it's anything longer than that, we'll become like transparent. And the thing is like, no questions asked. If someone wants to cancel a pre-order, like we understand, like you're being patient with us, in spending significant cash, and being patient and waiting for the bike. So we in turn like know we need to be patient with the rider. So if they get antsy and want to hit us up and ask where their bike is, or make modifications to their order, whatever the case is, we're more than happy to accommodate, because they've kind of afforded us that patience, and we want to reciprocate.
So you kind of outline the whole kind of A to Z process, and I think it's important to underscore how few of those pieces are actually controlled by state. Correct. Controlled Correct. By insert brand here.
Yes.
And this was one of the notes that I had, is that I think there's very few people that truly understand, and it part of it could just be a demographic thing within the cycling world, where it is that entry level bikes start at $2,500. If I need something, I just pay somebody for it. And if I want it really bad, I just pay a little bit more, and I can still get it when I want it. So I think there's some of that working against just the kind of global industry right now. But I mean, we've talked with some of the athletes that we have on the show that are pros, that are sponsored by businesses that can't get products to give them to go race bikes and promote their business. It's yeah. It's just a cluster from that perspective. But I think that's where it's important to underscore all of the places along the way that those things can get broken. Or I remember after we recorded last time, we were talking about how you were looking at air freight because shipping containers were getting so expensive, because it basically became a bidding war to get on the boat, even though everybody, as you said, bought their ticket. It just became like, if you could flex hard enough with enough money, again, back to that same mentality I just cited, that you would get on the boat and that your state bicycles would sit on the dock in Asia, because you didn't want to pay $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 for what 4 weeks ago was a $4,000 shipping container.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's like, talk a little bit about that piece of it, of try and clarify for folks that are spoiled brats, that are used to getting everything that they want, Because and to be fair, listeners, before we started recording, I said that I was guilty of this, so I'm lumping myself in with all of you. We're all guilty of this. When we want something, we want it.
But to be fair as well, right? A lot of people, if you've never worked in manufacturing or product development,
right,
or any of that stuff, you don't necessarily know how the sausage is made, right?
Correct.
We all hear that people are ordering, like bike shops are ordering bikes a year before they're supposed to be there. But from a manufacturing perspective, you start to back this stuff way, way back. So I think it's helpful for people to understand what that actually means. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard a story on NPR this past week about how shipping containers are getting shipped back to Asia empty because they're making way more money shipping them empty because they can do it faster to bring them in to the U.S. So
we're also not exporting anything because we're not making anything.
Yes, which is also a problem.
That's all. Yeah, that's a different economic problem that we're not talking about here.
It's not bikes.
Yeah, I mean, from a manufacturer's perspective, I mean, we manufacture a fair amount of the bicycle, obviously the frame, and there are other parts, but I mean, we work with a number of suppliers for all of our bikes. So, tires is a big one. That seems to be the area where we like consistently are running into issues. Is it's not just us that are buying the tires. There's only a handful of tire manufacturers in the world, and every bike needs tires. So increased demand. There's all the bike manufacturers are buying tires, and not only the bike manufacturers, they need to manufacture tires for people that who already have bikes and need to replace their tires as well. So you look at that as just like one example. Well, I can, even if everything else goes like very well, but I can't get tires for months and months and months, the bikes are delayed for months and months and months.
Could you hire someone to carve you wooden tires?
I can't, unfortunately. And so that's just like one thing, but there's certain things that we can control and we can have some backup options, and there's certain things that you're just kind of stuck, and it is what it is, like just because. And I think you're seeing that in particular with the group set manufacturers, just because there's only like two really that most companies use, and like almost every bike traditionally works with those manufacturers. So that's a real problem for people. So I think that's one of the, I guess, silver linings of the pandemic, that it's like kind of underscored, at least for me as someone who's kind of in control of the business, is like we need to be able to bring as much like in-house or under our umbrella, or just control as much as we can, because ultimately if like you're leveraging someone else's product to sell yours, like you're kind of at their mercy, like going forward.
Got to diversify your bonds, son.
So that's I think probably one of like the biggest like learning experiences. So it could be anything. I mean, like, if we're buying locks from one company, we can't get locks to sell to our customers. Like maybe we need to figure out like a better way to get locks or produce the locks.
So this is something that I've been thinking about. So a couple like jobs ago, I was working in a U.S. playing card company. So our two biggest clients were Walmart and Target, making playing cards for the big retail manufacturers, and it was the consistent push of sales thinking that was great, and marketing and operations saying, no, we need to be in Barnes and Noble, we need to be in Borders, we need to be in everywhere, because if one of those places stops ordering, we can't go out of business, and we need to have that distribution. I think that that's how I think about this piece of the manufacturing piece of, I think that's where, like, I look at SRAM and Shimano specifically in terms of like having select vendors that they only deal with. And if those vendors go down, or if anything else along their supply chain, because like you said, it's not just make the part, put the part in a box, ship the box over, receive it, and give it to the customer. It's 17 different steps in that process after the part is made, where everybody, all 17 companies are touching it and moving it or doing something with it.
And now add electronic shifting to that. Enjoy that. That sounds like this, because no one can get chips. So let's go.
So it kind of leads me to this question: is do you where you sit now, from your unique position and your unique optics for what you do, but also seeing what bigger companies do, do you see the bike industry ever going back to the way that it was in the before times?
As far as what, demand or how they operate?
Yeah, in terms of how they operate, in terms of having on-hand inventory, on having like specific vendors that they work with, on having how they ship, how they deliver, how they pre-sell, how they like
Does this break right on time delivery? Does the pandemic break right on time delivery for that whole market? Because that's how everyone's gone. Lean, right on time delivery.
Or does it begin to break down the manufacturer, distributor, wholesaler, retailer, bike shop dynamic that has existed in the bike industry for a long time of, we have our manufacturer, we understand our demand, and this is what we do because this is what we've always done? Like, do you see the bike industry going back to the functioning the way that it did in 2019 from a mindset, but also like an execution perspective?
I think it will very much stay the same. I think like the legacy bike industry, at least I haven't seen that much transformation other than like product. Well, they can charge more for the product.
Yeah, I mean,
and again, that's not me even like throwing shade. Like we've had to raise our prices. It's not out of like greed. It's out of like necessity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think prices will go up. But no, I mean, I think like the dealer distributor, like manufacturer, like model is pretty like entrenched in this industry, and I don't think that really is going to go out the window until something goes like really south, which there is a potential. From my perspective, there's a potential for things to get really, really sideways and south for some of the bigger manufacturers who have essentially pre-booked a number of orders, but all their customers are on terms. And then those end customers realizing that we over ordered because we thought demand was going to be at level 10.
Yeah.
And by the time we got the bikes a year and a half later, demand was at a level 5. And we don't have the cash because we took all the cash we made during the pandemic and spent it on whatever the case may be.
Hot tubs.
Yeah. Champagne hot tubs.
I could see that causing a lot of like a glut basically, or some financial trouble or deep discounts, in maybe mid next year. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know, but that would be probably like,
sounds like a hot stock tip for all of our listeners there. If you're wanting a new bike, just be patient.
If you want to buy an expensive bike from a legacy brand, I would, I think if you're patient in the summer of 2022, you might be able to find some deals.
I think
this is just complete conjecture. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe they underproduce, but just kind of knowing kind of like just how massive those companies and those supply chains are, and kind of like how like the whip goes, and there's just like, it's just such long like lag time between everything. I think that could potentially be an issue.
and
but
and
maybe
from
not.
from like an executive or a sales director level perspective, it's hard to go into a leadership meeting and forecast a quarter being down from the previous quarter. It's hard to be that guy to say like, it's sales are going to be bad. You're supposed to be the one that goes in and be like, we're going to crush last quarter with this new quarter. So it's hard to be the person
Right.
that's doing the forecasting and saying, telling that truth to power, because like you're saying, it's very much like this, you have to continue to escalate and you have to continue to grow. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think this might kill model years. Like we've never done model years, so
Oh yeah.
doesn't matter to us. Like when we have something like worth releasing, we release it. We don't like intentionally hold it or intentionally fast track things. Like
Right.
when we feel like we have something to add to the conversation, we do it. When we feel like discontinuing something and it's run its life, we like stop it. Like that might like the pandemic might kill model years for bikes. That maybe. And I think it's actually like really hampered innovation too, because we've released a lot of new products, but these are projects that were like in the pipeline. Whereas like, next year I can't like anything that wasn't like already like we were somewhat working on or developing it already. Like there's not going to be like as much like kind of newness from State Bicycle next year that there was like in 2020. And that's just because like most of our resources are just kind of procuring bikes and really just like existing lines of bikes. Whereas like, I don't know why, SRAM or Specialized or anyone would necessarily dedicate a ton of resources into like developing something like brand new from scratch that's going to take even longer to produce when like they kind of need all hands on deck just working on existing and previous lines. So I think it's going to be a little bit of like stagnation for a little while in terms of like innovation.
This is an interesting and not a hot take, but like a legit take, because I think you think about this industry in a different way because you're positioned differently as your business. And to think about this as like, okay, this is going to kill innovation, right? Like if you have
short term.
Yeah, short term for sure. It's going to kill innovation short term because your whole job is to make sure that you can get to those manufacturers. Like if you're SRAM or Shimano, you're trying to produce stuff, you just got to get volume, and you need to dedicate all your people to be like on the phone with Taiwan and on the phone with China, making things happen. It's very fascinating to think about that being the crux here, where we're going to get maybe into this space where we start to think about this less as how do we every year innovate, right? Where we're constantly trying to iterate something new. It's GRX with an extra tooth on it, or it's whatever, right? Like, who knows? I made a new thing and we got a patent. But to think about this as, is this a significant advancement where we're putting our money and we're actually making a change and we're growing this and doing positive stuff? And I think that's an interesting idea for us to all think about and kind of chew on. That's wow. Prescient, Mehdi, prescient. I feel like you're ahead of the curve on this one big time.
Yeah, and this is like kind of my speculation, but I think that's probably how it's gonna like shake out. Again, like companies are having such a hard time like producing stuff that they already have like fully hashed out, fully everything. So
Yeah.
Producing new stuff is like that. Like, I think most people aren't even like considering that.
It's going to be,
we get flying bikes.
Yeah. Everybody's going to just have all this pent up. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting, like to that point, seeing what the marketing in 2022 looks like from the sense of like major brands, whatever is it like, I'm almost just envisioning, picture of yellow jersey or pink jersey or red jersey, and it's like, why change what's not broken? And it's their previous model bike with some new paint or something like that, and it's like resting on like that. To me is like, how do you make chicken salad from using, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but also using kind of the endemic mindset of the way that things have always been done is, if you need to rely on anything, rely on race results. That frankly, you could put the yellow jersey on any bike this year and he would have kicked everyone's ass. Like, it wasn't going to matter. But that's where my head goes in terms of like, if you're talking about development stagnation, then it's like, okay, well then now we're already going to know what, I was going to say Velo News, but now we can just say all of Outside Magazine's resources. All of their advertising is going to look like for 2022.
Same ads.
It might have like a longer lag time before we start to notice it. I mean, you know, a company like Specialized or Trek probably has a much longer like pipeline than someone like us. But you know, I don't think it's necessarily like a bad thing. At least like for us, like we don't market our company. We're not trying to be some like I think we're like in like the cutting edge necessarily of like things that are exciting, but our like actual product is not like necessarily like it's intentionally, we want it to be like somewhat timeless. We don't want it to necessarily look like it's from 5 years in the future. So, you know, it wouldn't hurt someone like us, but there are companies that certainly kind of, I think, use kind of latest and greatest type of tactics to sell bikes every year. Basically, they're counting on, you know, certain people buying the $15,000 top tier model every year. And I know people that are like that, where they basically buy that $15,000 bike every year. They want the newest one. They sell, you know, the previous one for $8 or $9 grand, and they're like, all right, well, I spent, you know, the difference, you know, $6 grand out of pocket, but I had the latest bike for the all year. And
I guess it's like,
you know, if cycling's important to you and you use the product and it means that much to you, like, and you can afford it, like that's cool. That's like a good way to do it. Like it's not the way I would do things. Just being like an outdoors person and thinking about the environment and sustainability. I don't think like the model year like model is really like the best way to approach things as a cycling brand, but I understand why people do it.
And you know, to me, I make sense of that. Like, yes, you know, I make a scrunched up face when I hear $15,000 bike and get a new one every year, because that, like, I don't understand that. But also, you know, my parents lease a new car every 2 years. And,
exactly.
And it's like, to me, I guess that like immediately, like that's how I calibrate that. And it's like, well, it's, like Doug said, it's like horses for courses. And it's like, if that's your jam, then that's your jam. Like, that's cool. Good for you. So you mentioned it like 5 years in the future, and you know, we're talking about like what's moving forward. I think this is a cool spot to kind of pick your brain about whether it's, let's look past this, whatever this chaos as it slowly starts to fizzle out and things return to predictable timelines and predictable delivery dates for you, and shipping containers aren't hysterically expensive, and it's feeling somewhat regular to where you guys can kind of get back to focusing on some new and exciting things that you guys are so good at. So from kind of your head to our listeners' ears, like, what are you thinking about for the future? Like, what's kind of noodling around in your head?
Yeah, I mean, so like we since the last time we spoke, I mentioned before, we've kind of like really we released like our first all-road / gravel bike, and right around that time we linked up. I think we were right on the verge of releasing it, and then subsequently we've had actually like another gravel release, which is kind of more performance oriented but still very affordable. That bike was released in October. I want to say late October of last year, and in March, April of this year was on the cover of Bicycling Magazine on their best bikes of the year, or whatever that issue is, where they're previewing the most exciting bikes.
That was like there was like this moment of pride when that showed up at my house, because I get Bicycling Magazine.
Sure.
Shouts out to our family at Rodale. What's up, Rodale?
Yeah.
I got that and I was like, it's my bike I'm buying. And I was very excited because it was just such a nice thing to see a person that we know who is making such a good product be featured in a way that, like, normally when you look at bicycling, not necessarily Bicycling Magazine, but when you look at bike publications, it tends to be, this is the $20 million bike that requires
entry level. Yes, this is the $15,000 entry level bike category.
Right.
Multiple dentists.
Right. So given that that line of products is still relatively new to us, we think there's like a lot of directions that we can take it in that excites us. So we're kind of leaning into that a little bit more, just kind of the off-road exploration type bikes, but not just bikes, like vehicle, like accessories, parts, like all the exciting stuff that kind of comes along with it, the gear. So I think that's probably like the direction that State's taking. And then also, I mean, I feel like the industry at large is kind of like coming more into like State's lane, so to speak, like, and just kind of like the vibe that we've always been about, like even back in the fixed gear. So it's cool because I think like, there are a lot of like macro changes that are happening that lend itself really, really well to someone like State, where we've kind of been doing these things for a long time. So I'll give you an example. Like, I recently went through this exercise and I was kind of like figuring out like, where are we gaining momentum? Like, outside of like just, bikes are hard to get, people want them type of thing. And I went back and I was looking at some industry things, and you can do this for yourself. It's really funny. Just plug in like a random year into Google Images, put in like Bicycling Magazine, March 2015 or 2014. So I did this like for a bunch of years, like 4, 5, 6 years. I went back. I was just like plugging in different covers. If you look at the cover of Bicycling in any of those times, almost 9 times out of 10, if not more, it's like gonna be like a super skinny, like roadie guy on a bike, a very expensive bike, and all the headlines are like 30-minute exercises to like help you like scorch up the climbs like as fast as you can. And like surprisingly, like I didn't go into this like knowing this, but surprisingly, like a lot of stuff about like weight loss too, like how to like shave pounds so you can like be faster on your bike, like a bunch of that stuff. So, and then I pulled up some covers from the last 12 months, and like it was like a lot more of like get out and go outside, like these are like the bikes that will like help you on your like next adventure, that sort of thing. I think they had a cover with a lady who was a little bit heavier, and they had some articles about being more inclusive, that sort of thing. So that's kind of like the vibe, like those later examples that I gave, that's kind of like the vibe that State always had. Like, we're not necessarily like about like being competitive and aggro and trying to like go on a diet so we can be like 10 seconds faster when we race. Like, we were never doing that. So I think the industry is like gravitating towards that. And I think again, like more of like a macro change, I think like the demographic that has like the most buying power and that's like gravitating towards cycling are millennials. Like millennials now are like not in their early 20s or mid 20s. They're in their mid to late 30s. They have kids. They have a little bit more income to buy bikes. And the millennial audience isn't necessarily about like competition and being better than, like, it's more about, you know,
community.
I think it's about more community. It's more about adventure. It's more about the experience.
Yep.
I think like where maybe like 10 years ago, like having your name at the top of a race result is like the most coveted thing. I think like not to stereotype or sound silly, but like I think like having like a really sick Instagram pic at like in like a remote location like has replaced that. Like,
I mean,
No,
you're
for
not
real.
you're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're right.
like going out on a bike and having like a really cool pic or a really cool story on your Instagram is like more coveted for that generation than like again going on to like USA Cycling and like being number one. On like a race and not for everyone, but I just think this is like where the trends are going. And you know, if we look like, you know, because I get asked this a lot, like, you know, do you think this is like a bike, what do they call it, bike boom, or a spike, or what I'm trying to think of like the terminology I hear a lot that like basically is like a lot of terminology that makes it sound like it's like kind of a one-off thing and we're going to kind of go back to like a baseline, a pre-pandemic baseline. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I think in a lot of ways the pandemic has like accelerated a lot of like trends that were probably like already like going to happen like over the next maybe 5 to 10 years. They made them like all happen within like, you know, 18 months. So I mean, you know, you've already seen like a lot of companies are still like switching to like a hybrid or even like a permanent like remote work area. You know, I don't know what real estate is like where you guys live, but, you know, if you talk to anyone in like a mountain town or suburbs, or especially mountain towns, like remote towns, like those towns are going crazy. And like, that's a macro change, right? Like people aren't like purchasing a home and like, as soon as, you know, everyone's vaccinated or everyone's back in the office, they're not going to sell that house and then like move back to the city. Like that's just not going to happen. And so, you know, when you think about that, like, what does that mean? More people are like migrating out of cities. Well, that means like most people, like even something like very silly that most people don't think about, just like most people are getting like garages for the first time. If they're doing that, or more garage space, they can buy a bike. They can buy 2 bikes. They can, there's better trails or better access to like lanes, or even if there aren't, you know, they don't have to be necessarily as afraid of like high traffic when you're out in the suburbs. So I think these are all macro changes that I think are going to be beneficial for not only State Bicycle, but, you know, for the industry as a whole.
So, okay, so let me ask this, and then we'll wrap this up because we've already kept you for an hour and a half or so.
No worries.
In terms of the pendulum swinging in kind of coming into my lane.
Yes, come over here. This is a good.
So yes, I think you stated pretty clearly that like you're all about embracing that from a communal perspective and from a macro kind of total like domestic footprint perspective. But do you feel like you need to play defense at some point and say like we were here first? Do you feel like whether it's from a marketing or an advertising positioning or any of those things, do you feel like you have to like stake your claim as like, we've been here, this is our turf, and no one's going to take it away from us?
I don't think so. I mean, I think like we are always trying to be like, we really pride ourselves on being authentic and genuine, and I don't necessarily think we should be reactionary. At least that's not like, that hasn't really been my mindset, is to be reactionary. Ultimately, I think if we are authentic and we pretty much like the guidance we do what makes us excited and like our peer group excited. And like ultimately, I think if we continue to do that, people will gravitate towards it. And if not, then like at least we're doing something that came from like a really good place that we can be proud of. And financial results or success aside, you have success at least with just being happy and feeling good about what you do. So I don't know that we necessarily have to play defense or anything of that nature. I think people are pretty savvy about what's genuine and what's not.
I was just gonna say that I feel like as you get to like the late Gen Xers and the millennials and even getting into Y and Z,
we can suss that.
Like, yeah, it's like the simple way is like real recognizes real, and it's generations of people that have grown up being inundated with nonsense marketing and advertising pitches, and they don't want it anymore. And it's more of like, what is going to provide me what I want, and not a bunch of stuff I don't need. And I think that's where it's like no one can touch you guys from that perspective in terms of like, no, we've been here, we're doing it. And we're not moving into the space just to try and make a quick buck off of seeing some demographic shifts or some like buying pattern changes.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not, again, like I'm not necessarily worried about playing defense or anything. Like the same way I don't think, Specialized would lose any sleep if we, came out with like a States Works carbon fiber bike for $15,000. I don't know that.
I mean, oh God, just like make 10 of them and open them up for pre-sale on like 2-year turnaround time or something, just bonkers. And yeah, that would be so fun to watch unfold on social media.
Yeah. State Works.
That's we're skunk works in it here now at this point.
I need to build a wind tunnel first.
Do that. Look, it'll just be me with a fucking palm frond at the end.
No, I've got 2 box fans from last year when my basement flooded. We'll get box fans in a refrigerator box and roll the refrigerator box around the box fans, and we'll make our own wind tunnel. It'll be sick. It'll be perfect. It's so on brand. It'll be great.
Or we could just use one of your shipping containers that costs way more than rolled through. We could just use it for like a day and get some footy, and then we're good. So, no, I think that to thine own self be true, right? Be in your space, in your lane, in your brand, and continue doing that because it's going to pay dividends. And this is where you guys have been this whole time. And I love that even through all of these things where there've been all these changes and whatnot, you guys have found a way to still be State, right? And still be the people that you are and produce the products that you want to produce because you're in touch with yourselves and where you're at. Like if we go back to talking to you the first time, and we've had many conversations outside of this, but if we go back talking to you the first time on the show, like this came from y'all being like, oh, we're into riding fixies and this is what we want to bring to the market. Your relationship with bikes continues to change, and it's going to continue to change, and that's not gonna ever stop. But you're going to continue to change and think about how you all approach bikes, but it's always going to come from the place of this is what's honest to us. This is what we want to produce. This is what we care about. And I love that that's like where the crux has always been for you.
Thank you.
So, before we get to our last question, we will do that. And you know what the last question is because you've answered it once before, which is what do we want to take home from this episode? So a little lesson for all the pebbles. So think
marinate for a second.
Marinate on that while we do this thing. I also have a tech support question for you right now, which I need to ask, which is this.
Okay.
So I bought a part from you and I cannot get it to stay in my bar end. Can I have some offline tech support on this? It may be the fact that I've tried to use it. Right. So maybe we can have some offline tech support afterwards.
Yeah. Those can be fidgety. You might just need to like find the right O-ring. We try to make those one size fits most, but
those can be fidgety, or
As
the
you-
buyers can be fidgety.
I was
Because
gonna
I
say
think that applies to both.
buyer issue that it is
Well,
actually a fidgety part issue. So I will take that tech support advice offline.
sure, yeah. There's no standards in the bike industry. That's the problem, or too many standards.
But honestly, I think that should be a standard on everyone's bike list. If you
We gotta put State and Green Aloha together. I think we could work on a collab for that.
collab for that with our friend Ian Mullins out
Yeah.
in Kauai. Yeah, when I'm out there on my honeymoon, I will work on that collaboration opportunity. So
Sweet.
as we wrap up for the show today, we want to thank all of you for being engaged, listening, making us so successful. We're so thankful all of you been here. We had some technical difficulties. They happen. This is live streaming. And if you didn't hear them, then you're listening to the podcast. So that's how this works. You get the clean, unedited version. But without all of you, we could not simply be able to bring this to all of you. So thank you all for being here. In addition to supporting the show, we encourage you to go listen to all the wonderful folks that are here to make this happen for you. We would like you to show them your appreciation because they make this possible for us.
And the first one is Be Free Ride Bike cycling apparel. You guys have heard us talk about these for a long time now. So it is fully customized kit, personally tailored for your needs. So not only is it fit tailored, you can pick the fabrics, you can pick if you want a collar, if you don't want a collar, if you want 2 pockets, if you want 3 pockets, if for some reason you don't want any pockets, like they could probably make that happen too. In addition to all the custom design work, they're also working on some retail kits right now that you can go to bfrbcycling.com and purchase and not need to order for your team or for your shop. But head there, bfrbcycling.com today and find out how they can help you and your entire team or shop or church group or whatever, get outfitted for 2021 cross season, 2022 winter, whatever you're doing. Or if you're in Australia, it's summer, whatever. Just whatever. Go there.
And also follow the link in our show notes and head on over to our good friend Dan at grimporbrothers.com right now and get your hands on some of the most amazing premium hand roasted coffee that actually supports amazing things in the cycling industry. Dan's been doing this for years. Amazing coffee. The genesis of his story is great. We've had him on the show before. It's wonderful. But his coffee always goes to support awesome things in the cycling community. Go check him out, grimpourbrothers.com. And if you sign up right now to get on the coffee subscription service, you will get an extra month for free if you sign up now. So go do that.
And also, Dan, you are family. We love you. You had a loss this week, and our hearts and our prayers are with you and your entire family.
Absolutely.
But last but certainly not least, Hand Up Gloves, one of our longtime partners, friends of the show since the very beginning, friends of our good friend Mehdi here as well, and partners with them on some projects, supplying multiple sports with a huge line of apparel in a range of designs, whether you are like me and like wearing simple gloves, or you are like Doug and like wearing wild gloves. Whatever your personality is, they got something to fit it and something that will allow your personality to shine through. So it's a little bit more complicated. You got to click the link in our show notes because at some point somebody stole our link and started to share it around, and it made it look like it was performing way better.
Make us money, but not Hand Up money.
So don't do that. Don't be that guy. Just click the link in the show notes and use code Pebble $sign to save 10% off everything in store. Go shop for golf, go shop for ski, go shop for winter cycling, go shop for the new fingerless gloves. They've got new flannels, new tech shirts. This is Doug's opportunity to talk about jorts, but I'm going to cut him off and not allow him to do it. So I'm going to talk about jorts this week. So yeah, go there, 10%, everything in store, Hand Up Gloves.
We love hearing from all of you, and I still love my jorts. I'm wearing them today. They are my go-to shorts.
They're your recording, your official recording kit.
They are actually. If I have official recording kit,
yeah.
I wear jorts because they're very comfortable, but they're also great working in bike share. So if you need good jorts for bike share, you should definitely check out Hand Up. At any rate, we love hearing from all of you. So I have to get my jorts plugs
That's
in.
the
Jorts plugs
dumbest sponsor plug, but whatever. It's pretty on brand for us, so that's fine.
Totally on brand. Make sure you visit all our social media, subscribe to all that stuff, subscribe to all our feeds, go to our website, check all that out. Go to thegravelot.com, stay in touch with us. Check us out right now. Like, as we said at the beginning of the show, we are going to switch things up and start going bi-weekly, which means every other week, just because we're managing some personal commitments and life changes. Doesn't mean that we're gonna not be here. We're just trying to make sure we nail the content. So we'll be switching things up in that space, but go get on all of our social media so you know when we're going live and you know when new episodes are coming out. We'd love to have you there. Go to our YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all those things, and make it happen.
Yep, and our intro and outro music for season 4 of this year is from our good friend Wadaboy. So huge thanks to him for allowing us to use the green room music, the intro music, the outro music. All of those things have been provided by him. So go check him out wherever you can find good music. The links are in our show notes, and go thank him for really supporting the show and being cool with us using his music.
Absolutely. So, Mehdi, final question. What do you want the Pebbles to take home from our conversation today, which is way different than our conversation at the beginning of pandemic? So what do you want them to take home from our talk today?
I think that the one piece of advice I can bestow on the entire audience watching is hoard tires, hoard tubes. If you're tubeless, hoard sealant. Get it all.
So
shit's about to get rough. Get the tires, especially the tires. Hoard them. If you like riding your bike, and you'll be bummed if you don't have a ride, get the parts that you think are gonna break and hoard them.
That's good. That's honestly, it. I mean, as much as people like to think that this is like it's getting better, it's just now going to get into it's like those things too right now.
Yeah, especially if you're particular about brand, hoard that.
Okay, yeah. So best advice you've had.
A major manufacturer.
Yeah, winter 2022.
I'll buy some bikes from brands I don't like and yeet them off the Brett Spence Bridge. It'll be great. Fantastic and cathartic. Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's funny advice, but it's also actually legit advice to make sure, like, folks, this isn't getting better. Like, the automotive industry's experience it. Everybody is. I appreciate that advice because it comes from a place of understanding. So, for sure.
All right. Thanks, fellas.
Dude, this has been amazing. Huge thanks to all of our Pebbles for being here. Huge thanks to you, Mehdi, for taking the time out, carving it out on an afternoon out in the sunny Arizona weather to spend some time with us. Always good to catch up. We can't do this without your support, Pebbles. Make sure to subscribe, click the like button, do all the things you're supposed to do. Go to thegravelot.com, figure out how to become a Patreon supporter. We'd love to have you aboard. And send us guests for the fall. We are working on the fall. If you've got folks you want us to talk to, please send them to us. We'd love to have some new guests on this fall. We have amazing folks in our back catalog, but we'd love to have some new folks. So if you know somebody doing something good, get them with us for sure. That is all for this week. So be sure to subscribe, follow, and engage, because as we say, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if you don't see you on the trails this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.
Thank you.